All right, welcome. Good morning and welcome to the Forum for Excellence 2021. My name is Sarah Goldammer. I'm from the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center, part of your Adult Education Professional Development Network. And I'm here with Anita Kerr, also from your Adult Education Professional Development Network from the Central Illinois Adult Education Service Center. So thank you for joining us. So the breakout session is Innovatively Growing Your Career Pathway Programs. And a couple of housekeeping items before we get started with our presenters. All of our attendees have the ability to unmute yourselves, but we ask you to refrain from doing that because I think we've been on Zoom long enough to know that that is just chaos if we start hearing your background noise. So please keep yourself muted, but here's the good news for y'all. This team from College of Lake County has pre-recorded the material. They're all here and they're available to answer your questions in real time in the chat. So please, if you have questions, put them in the Zoom chat, not in the Whova chat, but in the Zoom chat right here. And then they will be able to answer your questions. We will also have a little bit of time at the end, I believe, if you want to ask some additional questions orally. You can access today's presentation on the Whova app. And as I mentioned, this session is going to be recorded. We all know that because I made such a big deal about it. You can locate the recording on our Forum for Excellence website following the end of the conference. Give us a few days to get those up. It won't be immediate. If you're looking for a certificate of professional development, those will come in about 2 weeks after the conference. If you need a professional development certificate, you need to be accurate in the Zoom meeting for attendance purposes. So, make sure you have your full name there in your Zoom name, because that's where we will take the information from for the certificates. Now, I would like to introduce our presenters, Dr. Arlene Santos-George, Yesenia Mata, Chris Utek, and Kelly Arce. We thank you very much for being here, for sharing, and for inspiring us today. I will let them unmute later and put their cameras on if they wish and talk to you a little bit more, but let me go ahead and bring up the recording. Oops.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the session on Innovatively Growing Your Career Pathway Programs. Me and my colleagues are here. I am Dr. Arlene Santos-George, Dean of Adult Education and ESL Division. Next is...
My name is Yesenia Mata. I am a Student Success Coordinator in Adult Education.
Hi, I'm Chris Utek. I'm the Criminal Justice Department Chair at the College of Lake County.
And hi, my name is Kelly Arce, and I'm the ESL Department Chair.
Next slide, please. So let me tell you how we are going to proceed with the session to meet our learning objectives for this session. So first, I will be giving an overview of the career pathways under ICAPS at CLC. And then Yesenia will be talking about how we expanded ICAPS through the Innovative Bridge and Transition Program Grant, which is a grant from the ICCB. And then after that, Professor Chris Utek is going to talk about one of the components of the IBT grant, and that's the Criminal Justice ICAPS program and Bridge as well. And then lastly, Professor Kelly Arce is going to talk about the IBT grant component on a non-credit portion, which is ICAPS Model 2 on entrepreneurship. And then hopefully we'll have a Q&A in the last 10 minutes of the session. Next slide, please. So the very first thing I want to emphasize in this session is the relationship between the adult education and the career and technical education programs. Because of WIOA Act, which was reauthorized in 2014, and the Carl Perkins CTE Act, reauthorized in 2019, the emphasis is on strengthening career pathways through integration, partnership, collaboration between the K-12 system, the adult education, and post-secondary educational systems. This means having multiple entry and exit points throughout the career pathway, which starts at the secondary education through post-secondary and eventually the job market. So these career pathways also include competency-based curriculum that are in high demand high skill or high wage occupations. It means having CTE programs that are integrated with adult education programs that prepare the adult education students before they enter a CTE program under ICAPS. Most importantly, it also means having instructional and student support services for adult education students while taking their CTE program. And so in order to implement an integrated career pathway model for CTE programs at CLC, in collaboration, of course, with our K-12, with our high school partners, we have developed Bridge and ICAPS programs starting in fiscal year 18. So next slide, please. Oops, wow, we're soaring. Anyway, can you click again? Here we go. So at CLC, we have actually developed Bridge and pre-Bridge programs since fiscal year 18. And if you click again, so these are our 5 Bridge and pre-Bridge programs. The Bridge, as you know, you need to have a TABE score of 6 that will place you in 6.0 reading level. And then the pre-Bridges are Bridge programs that are addressing the needs of those students who want to take a Bridge class, but their scores are 4.0 to 6.0 GLE levels in the TABE. So these 5 programs are in healthcare, manufacturing, early childhood education, administrative management and technology, which is basically your administrative office systems, and your computer information technology. So as of last year in fiscal year 20, we had 5 bridges. Each one are designed specifically because of the complexity of the industry. You can notice that there are sometimes 4 or 5 courses within a program, or sometimes there's only like 2 courses. Some of these bridge programs can be completed within 1 year, or some of them can be completed within 1 semester or 2 semesters. But having a bridge and pre-bridge actually is, that allows our students of different reading levels to participate in a program that can prepare them by exploring different career choices while they're still in adult education. And then next slide, please. So these bridge programs actually lead to ICAPS programs. And by fiscal year 20, we have, and you can click on the next slide, we have actually, as you can see, different ICAPS programs in the healthcare career cluster, in the transportation, distribution, and logistics and manufacturing career cluster, and also in the business and professional services cluster, and in the computer information technology career cluster. Under healthcare, we are able to provide an ICAPS in the CNA certificate program, in the phlebotomy technician certificate program, and the healthcare office assistant program. We also have a non-credit, and that is personal care aid, which is actually really easy to complete within, I believe, only 4 Saturdays. And then in the TDL and manufacturing career cluster, we have the HVAC installation technician certificate program, which is 20 credits, and that's actually a whole year. When we say a whole year, that actually encompasses fall, spring, as well as summer. And then we have 4 different certificate programs in the automotive technology. Actually, three certificate programs under automotive technology, which is automotive oil change, automotive service technician, and automotive brakes. And then also part of TDL is the automotive collision repair technician, which are all able to complete in 1 year. And then in the business and professional services, we have general office certificate as well as the office professional certificate. These are also within 1 year. that you can earn the credential. And then lastly, in computer information technology, we offer desktop support technician as well as Cisco networking certificate. Next slide, please. So then back in fiscal year 20, we said, well, what's next for expansion? Like, what do we need to consider in order to expand our ICAPS program? So first and foremost is, of course, we have to be student-centered. So we look at the student career goals. Every semester, at the start of the semester, we ask our students to fill out a career goal form. And from that, we're able to understand, what are they interested in? What career programs are they interested in? And then, of course, we have to make sure that from the supply side, so the students is from the demand side for the programs, and then the academic departments are from our supply side. Are they willing to work with us? Like for example, in this case, Chris Utek, is he able to, and is he willing to work with us? And then third, very important factor is funding for students. How are we going to be able to support this? If students have to pay for tuition, where are we going to get those? The next one is funding for classes. How are we going to pay for faculty if we have to have new courses for this or new programs for this? And then resources in terms of like supporting the students to make sure that they are successful, and also supporting our faculty, what would help them be more creative and innovative in the classroom to make sure that our students are learning. So these are the things that we considered for expansion purposes. And with that, I will give you Yesenia so that she can inform us, give us an overview of what we did next to expand.
Thank you, Dr. Santos George. So with that said, we really saw the Innovative Bridge and Transition Program Grant as an opportunity to scale up our ICAPS programs. So the grant encompassed the curriculum development for 3 new Bridge to Career programs, which consisted of Bridge to Criminal Justice, Entrepreneurship, and Forklift Technician. So we really did have to start, from the very beginning to offer these program pathways. The next step after that, we did the implementation of pilot programs. So in this stage, we focused on working very closely with the academic and workforce divisions in order to bring these programs to life for our students. So the Criminal Justice ICAPS program, it followed an ICAPS Model 1. Entrepreneurship and Forklift Technician focused on a Model 2 ICAPS. And then the great thing about this grant, and I think, a great deal to its success was that it provided financial resources for students. So the grant was able to cover the tuition for the students as well as their books. And then we even also had some money available to use for additional training and licensures for the students, which Chris and Kelly are going to tell you a little bit more about. So really, this was just a great opportunity for us to increase our program offerings for programs that our students wanted. Next slide, please. And so I did mention that we did collaborate with the academic and workforce departments. So for the criminal justice program, we decided to do the private security and loss prevention certificate due to its high demand. And I did learn something from Chris, during our class visits, was that there are 3 times as many security officers as there are police officers. So again, just reinforcing that it is a very high demand area. And then we did collaborate with the Business and Social Sciences Division, which Chris is a representative of today. And so they have been super accommodating in terms of class modality. They do understand that our students have specific needs that maybe traditional students don't have. So they have been very understanding and providing the classes in a schedule that is very ideal for our students. We also worked very closely with the Career and Job Placement Center to transition students to them once they complete their program. So
my hands are cold.
Receive information about internships, job fairs, job opportunities once they complete their program. And we also did work with external partners such as the CLC Police, Zion Police Department, just different community partners in our area so that, they have a pipeline for talent. And then we also have, somewhere to transition our students to once they complete their program certificate. Next, we decided to do entrepreneurship because of the high student interest. So as Dr. Santos George mentioned, we do have goal forms that let us know what students are interested, what their goals are here in adult education. And it gives us really great insight into the types of programs that they're interested in. One of them being the one, thing that we kept seeing in these goal forms. They're like, oh, I want to take my business to the next level. I want to start my own business one day. And so that really just gave us the extra push to offer this program and to scale it up. And so for that program, we did work very closely with the Workforce and Professional Development Institute, or WPDI, to offer this model to ICAPS. And then lastly, for the forklift, we also did see forklift as one of the recurring interests for students. And so we decided to do forklift technician because it is higher wage than the operator. And again, we worked with WPDI for this effort. Next slide, please. Okay, and so now on to my piece. So we can offer as many programs as, from an administrative perspective, as many programs as we can, but we have to have these students be interested in the programs and, wanting to pursue these programs. So this is what my piece is here as part of student success. So the recruitment, what we did, part of this recruitment process was still in COVID times, part of it was not. And so I'm just going to share a little bit with you about what worked better for us and just provide you a comprehensive list of the recruitment efforts that we did. So what we did, we shared the information about our programs, about our new programs with the CLC advisors. That way, if they had any interested students who may be eligible, they could just funnel them back, to us, and they would get free resources, right? And then we also visit the classrooms regularly. So we introduce ourselves, provide an overview of student success, what the team does, but this is also a great opportunity for us to talk about new programs and opportunities. And so with that, we use that as a recruitment tool as well. We have also mentioned the goal forms. Again, this is just collecting data from what the students want to achieve this semester with adult education. So it gives us, a query list every semester of what the students' goals are. And we use that in future semesters to recruit for new programs and also existing programs as well. Another really useful tool was the report from Institutional Effectiveness Planning and Research. So they run a report for us that outlines, for example, in criminal justice, the first class is CRJ 121. So they would run a report of all of the students enrolled in that CRJ 121 class, which is the first class in the sequence of the pathway. And from there, they put additional criteria so that adult education eligible students are indicated in that list. And so that would give us a list of potential students that may want to do ICAPS based on their specifications. And then we would just follow up with them to see if they wanted to do ICAPS. At the end of the day, they're already enrolled in the program. They want to be in criminal justice. We just have to incentivize them to move forward with the ICAPS program. And with those queries, we have queries from IEPR, but we also run queries ourselves in our DAISY system and also PeopleSoft. And just, we look at test scores to see who qualifies for these programs, who is in the advanced levels. And with that information, we send mass texts, phone calls. We even sent mail when we first, did the CRJ program. And we also did targeted emails as well. And so what worked better for COVID, I would say, were the phone calls because, students want to have that personal connection. And so I think that was as close as we could get in COVID times. But now I think students are a little bit more comfortable with technology. So now I think we can reap a little bit more fruit from, social media as well, more of the virtual recruitment efforts. We also would do press releases and then marketing on the CLC website. So it sounds like a lot, I know, but these are all tools that you can use to recruit your students. And onto the onboarding process for students. So once a student meets, our requirements for the ICAPS program, then they would proceed to complete an ICAPS application. And then they would interview with the student success team and one of our managers. And so this is really just to make sure that the program meets the needs of the student, is going to help them achieve their goals, and that they are committed to completing the program. And so after that, they have like an ICAPS welcome day hosted by the student success team. This is really just to give them their materials, take care of any like housekeeping items, make sure they have no holds, all of that great stuff, show them where their class is, and then complete any financial aid forms, because as you know, ICAPS only, for our purposes, only covers the first 2 classes, but we do want to make sure that they are taken care of after those first 2 classes if their program is longer than that. And then from there, we just make sure we continue on with the case management by the student success team. Next slide, please, Tara. And so the wraparound services by the student success team, we really make sure that we coach them along the way. If they needed to, get a new job in the course of their program, we can help them with that too. Any referrals to internal and external resources, we are really here to help them with all of that great stuff. I always tell students that, in the classroom, they have their CTE instructor and their support instructor supporting them. And then outside of the classroom, they have their student success coordinator, because we do recognize that there are outside factors that do affect their academic success. And we do want to be comprehensive and make sure that we do provide all of the resources necessary for the students to succeed. And so, that's really it for me. Next slide, please. And then with that said, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Hey, thanks, Yesenia. I'm so glad to have this opportunity to speak with you about the Securing Your Future program, which is the Criminal Justice ICAPS program at CLC. As I mentioned before, I'm Chris Utek, and I'm the Criminal Justice Department Chair. I've been with the college for about 10 years, and I also teach our policing and correctional classes in addition to my department chair duties. The Securing Your Future program is a 15 credit hour program that culminates in the award of the Private Security and Loss Prevention Certificate. This 15 credit credential is comprised of 5 3-credit classes that students take over the course of 1 calendar year. These classes are completed using a cohort model with up to 20 students in a class, with remaining non-cohort seats filled by non-cohort college students. These would be students that are not part of the ICAPS program. It's important to note that in order to reduce barriers to participation for former and current adult ed students, the college reading and writing readiness requirement was waived for cohort members. We felt comfortable waiving this requirement thanks to the wraparound academic support afforded by this program, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and actually Yesenia had just described briefly. Next slide, please. Next, I want to explain why we selected the Private Security and Loss Prevention Certificate as the program of study for criminal justice ICAPS at CLC. Private security is a growing, high-demand occupation. As Yesenia mentioned earlier, there's 3 times as many private security agents as there are police officers in the United States. Also, the minimum educational credential required to enter the profession is a GED or high school diploma. The courses that students take in the Securing Your Future program help them to develop entry-level skills to meet the demands of the private security workplace, as well as help them become more marketable for those workplaces and also future workplaces if they decide to make the transition into working in a correctional workplace or even a law enforcement workplace. Communication skills are at the core of the Securing Your Future program. When I talk to our program advisory committee, which is comprised of chiefs of police, correctional officials, private security employers, and other criminal justice officials, the top two pre-employment skills that they want to see in future employees are written and verbal communication skills. Therefore, writing, interpersonal communication, and collaboration are at the core of every course. An additional benefit to students participating in the Securing Your Future program is that upon successful completion of the course, Introduction to Private Security, they become eligible to receive their permanent employee registration card, which is also known as a PERK card, which is their basic private security licensure for the state of Illinois. Students are able to receive this because of the instructor that we have dedicated to the cohort and her professional background and certifications, and also the way that she structures the course. And this is also an area where we are able to help students with some of the extra funding Yesenia mentioned earlier by paying for the costs of their application process for the PERK card. Next slide, please. So the 5-course progression in the Securing Your Future program is first, Introduction to Criminal Justice, which addresses the basics of the criminal justice system. Introduction to Private Security, which addresses the private security industry. As I mentioned before, this is also the course where students become eligible for their PERK cards after they've completed it successfully. Next, over the summer, is Introduction to Policing, which addresses issues surrounding policing in the United States. Students begin their last semester with our report writing course, which teaches them the fundamentals of writing reports that would be appropriate in private security, correctional, and law enforcement workplaces. And finally, students take the course Principles of Criminal Investigation, which describes how and why we do investigations and provides them with a solid foundation to become investigators themselves later on in their careers as private security officers, correctional officials, or law enforcement officers. The courses for the Securing Your Future program meet twice a week as 8-week night classes. Class nights begin at 6 p.m. for a 1-hour IET study skills support class facilitated by adult ed faculty. At 7 p.m., students begin their criminal justice course with the criminal justice faculty. Now, as Yesenia mentioned earlier, adult ed faculty not only facilitate the study skills class, but are also present for the entire criminal justice class as well, in order to help students process through the information they are receiving in class and to help them build on the study skills that they've learned in the support class. Additionally, we have a dedicated criminal justice instructor who teaches all of the courses in this program, following the cohort through to completion. All of this is done with an eye on helping adult ed students make a successful transition to college courses. Next slide, please. This slide outlines the multi-semester progression students can expect in the Securing Your Future program. You'll note on the left, it starts out with advanced adult ed courses, moves into the Criminal Justice Bridge course, and then into the 5 college courses that the cohort will take to complete the program. As I mentioned before, all of them are 8-week courses. Students take 2 courses in the spring, 1 in the summer, and 2 in the fall, allowing them to complete the program and earn their degree in 1 calendar year. This flow chart also helps to illustrate the support that we enjoy from our future employers, as well as from other departments within the College of Lake County, specifically our Career and Job Placement Center. Next slide, please. To wrap up my presentation, or my portion of the presentation, I wanted to speak about the outcomes we've experienced so far. We've had 2 cohorts move through this model. The first cohort ran from the spring of 2020 through the spring of 2021 and was funded by an innovative bridge grant, which covered tuition and books. We started out with 20 students and graduated 10 of them. This cohort started out in person in the spring of 2020, which, as you'll remember, was when the COVID pandemic hit. So after completing their first course in person, they were transitioned to the live via Zoom format for the remaining classes. We experienced the majority of our attrition after that first live via Zoom course. We hold out hope that in future in-person cohorts, we'll be able to circle back around and recruit some of the students we lost when we moved to live via Zoom. For the second cohort, which was our first ICAPS cohort, we started out with 4 students and are on track to graduate 2 in December. This cohort has been in the live via Zoom modality for the duration of the cohort. For future cohorts, we are still in the decision process about if we will offer them as in-person or live via Zoom, so stay tuned for future presentations. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kelly Arce to talk about the Entrepreneurship ICAPS program at CLC.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Arce, and I am the ESL Department Chair at the College of Lake County. And I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the Entrepreneurship Bridge and ICAPS Model 2, or as we affectionately call it, Entrepreneurship Boot Camp. The purpose of this boot camp was really to just provide entrepreneurship training to our students. And it was with a completion time period of 2 semesters. So it's rather quick, and most of our students can make the commitment to be involved in those 2 semesters. There were no academic requirements to be a part of the bridge and the ICAPS. In that we didn't require college reading and writing readiness or basic algebra readiness, but students did need to be eligible and qualify for the bridge. Let me backtrack a little and talk about the origins of the bridge. So next slide, please, Tara. So as Yesenia mentioned a little bit earlier, why we decided that an entrepreneurship bridge and ICAPS would be beneficial for our students was really based on the student feedback that we have received over the years. Many students, when they fill out their goal forms or they talk about their career dreams, they mention owning a business, or even growing the business that many of our students already have. And then when we consider statistically that the immigrant population in the United States makes up almost 22% of all business owners, but yet they're more like about 13.5% of the population, you can see that this is a great area of interest for our ESL students, but also many of our ABE and ASE students. So when we were to develop this program, we did a lot of research about other bridge programs that were successful around the country. We looked at the components and what had worked and what hadn't worked so much before we developed it. And then we also had the opportunity to collaborate with WPDI, which is the Workforce Professional Development Institute at the college. Next slide, please. So in terms of development, it truly was a joint effort between ESL and ABE, ASE instructors working with the WPDI instructor to develop the curriculum. We made sure that it was aligned with the college and career readiness standards for adult education, as well as that at all times the Illinois essential employability skills were embedded in the curriculum. We also made sure to embed support for our English language learners since the topic of entrepreneurship sometimes has very domain-specific words that might be difficult, we made sure that those students received support in that aspect. We also provided coaching support from our student success team. They're so wonderful in that they are always reaching out to the students, checking to see on their progress, any challenges they might face, and finding ways to give them support. So the ICAPS content and support was originally based on a WPDI online course that was offered. And then when we created the bridge, we reverse engineered it from the ICAPS course so that they would be stepping stones in terms of material, and students would be exposed to some of the topics and material in different ways. The curriculum itself was developed in the summer of 2020, and then classes were rolled out in spring of 2021. Next slide, please. So, as you can see here, the schedule, we started in spring 2021, and it did start as live via Zoom. The Entrepreneurship Bridge class was for the first 8 weeks of the semester, and then our Entrepreneurship Bootcamp with IET support, with the IET support class, was the second 8 weeks. Then in the summer of 2021, it was also live via Zoom. We were able to provide additional training credits through WPDI, as well as micro-learning 365-day access, so that our students were able to, if they wanted to learn more about a specific area that they needed help or assistance with, they were able to tailor their learning in some ways to accommodate their specific needs. And in the end, we had a great ICAPS recognition celebration to celebrate their success in completing the program. They were part of this with other programs. Next slide, please. So here you can really see the flow chart for how the program progressed. As we said before, there wasn't the requirement for college reading and writing readiness or basic algebra readiness, but to enter into the program, the Bridge program, students in advanced ESL, intermediate ABE, and ASE needed to have a TABE score of GLE grade level equivalent 6 or higher. And the requirement or the prerequisite to pass from the bridge to the boot camp was simply that they had completed the bridge successfully. Next slide, please. So you might at this point be wondering a little about what the content included. The curriculum really encompassed a range of topics, anywhere from just for the students learning about the key characteristics of successful entrepreneurs and setting goals for small business owners, to doing things like creating a business plan and developing a unique selling proposition. There was also aspects of the curriculum that address some elements that they might face, like specific issues with HR and employee management or bookkeeping basics. Beyond that part of the curriculum, what was particularly innovative about it was that students were able to receive insight from real entrepreneurs here in Lake County regarding their own experiences opening and owning a business. So those entrepreneurs were so kind as to share their experience, talk about the successes they had had, as well as the struggles they had faced. And they were wonderful to give a lot of advice, as well as words of encouragement to our students to continue. Next slide, please. So For the outcomes, we really, as we said, as we thought, based on student feedback earlier, we had great student interest. And this was true despite it being COVID times, because as mentioned before, this entire class was during online via Zoom. And we had an excellent completion rate. We started out initially with 18 students, and 17 continued into the ICAPS enrollment, and 17 completed the ICAPS program with us. We also received a great deal of positive student feedback. Students expressed how they really had no idea how many resources and support there was for them. And the direction, they had much clearer direction about where they wanted to head with their business. I can even anecdotally attest to one student who, after hearing about the unique selling proposition, she changed the name of her company and has already seen some sales increase. So it's just hearing that sort of feedback that was so positive. We have decided to offer the Entrepreneurship Bridge and Boot Camp again in the spring of 2022. All right, I'd like to turn this back over to Dr. Santos George.
Well, thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Yesenia. I hope that everybody learned so much about how we implemented any expansion for our ICAPS program. So I guess the next question is, well, what's in store for us in the next year, specifically fiscal year 22 and beyond? And what I can say is the work continues for us to expand career pathways through ICAPS and expanding opportunities for adult education to be in the bandwagon for Perkins, as well as adult education's WIOA initiatives. So specifically, what's next is the Career Pathways Program of Study initiative at the College of Lake County. So ICCB now requires that in order to receive Perkins money continually, that there should be approved ICCB programs that are programs of study. So CTE programs that would be requesting funding for Perkins are now required to be approved ICCB programs of study. And in order to do that, they have to satisfy 9 quality criteria according to the ICCB program of study expectations tools. And those quality criteria are, of course, ensuring that the CTE programs, the credentials earned by the students, including adult ed students, will be in high demand, high wage, high skill occupational fields, and that they are learning their credentials based on competency-based research with employers. So that's next for ICAPS at CLC. And I can already say that for fiscal year 22, we're already targeting welding and CNC programming, or what they call precision tools trade. So that's for fiscal year 22. And then in fiscal year 23, again, there's expansion in criminal justice and entrepreneurship in the Model 2, as well as forklift technician in Model 2. But there'll be more CTE programs joining our ICAPS because of the program of study. And the ones that we're mostly excited about is the culinary and hospitality program, which a lot of our students really want us to offer. So, and then again, we have to think about sustainability of our existing ICAPS. And so work continues there too, that we will always be recruiting for our existing ICAPS program. We're not going to forget about them because we have all these new programs. So in other words, expansion is going to be exciting in fiscal year 22 and 23. I just hope that COVID will end its, will run its course, and so that our students can actually really be participating in more ICAPS programs, especially those that require face-to-face. And with that, we are now in the Q&A session.
All right, thank you very much to all four of our presenters sharing a lot of great information. So let me go ahead and move on. What questions do you have at this point? I know that our group has already been answering questions in the chat, but does anybody have any additional questions for our presenters at this point? You can either put them in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask a question as well. There you go. I knew Michelle would have a question. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi, Arlene, a longtime follower and big fan of College of Lake County. I have a question. When you are building your new programs, when you're looking at your labor market information and working with your WIOA partners, if something's not in high demand for your area, for instance, early childhood or culinary arts, we have both of those fabulous programs, but they're not in our high demand. How do you get those approved for ICAPS?
So what we do, and I do have a similar situation, it's our early childhood education bridge, which to date has not crossed over to being an ICAPS program. But I did have a plan before COVID, and COVID-19 hit us, and so it came to a stop. But the plan, Michelle, is actually what you do is you have to talk to your job center of Lake County, the Lake County Workforce Development Board. You talk with the director of your one-stop center or your director of the Workforce Development Department. And then you tell them that this is of course, it does not satisfy the definition of high skill or high wage, but it is high demand. So what they will do at the job center of Lake County or the Workforce Development Department is they actually will provide you with an exception. And what that means is they just, the director actually just has to go through a process, I guess, with the DCEO and say that, that they are going to be approving an ICAPS for adult education students. Now, that did not happen for us because, like I said, COVID-19 hit, but we were already gearing up for that by presenting some information from MC. I'm sure you have heard of MC, to talk about the number of job openings and also the salary and the interest from our students. And so we were gearing up for that. And then we took to a stop because of COVID-19. So hopefully that answers your question.
Great advice. Thank you, Arlene.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions? All right, if we don't have other questions, I will just mention that we would love for you to provide some feedback on this session, and you can do that on the Whova app. You can complete a feedback form for every session that you attend. And we'd also like to encourage you to follow us for forum updates, engagement, information. And there's multiple ways that you can do that. I mentioned the hashtags at the end of our keynote speaker. It's Forum for Excellence 2021 and Excellence for Equity. And of course, we've got the adult PDN, Adult Education PDN, and ICSPS, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. So lots of ways to interact. And yes, thank you very much. Thanks for everybody for coming. And it was an awesome presentation. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much, everybody. So enjoy the next session. The concurrent session will be at 2 o'clock. There will be a speaker at 12:45. So please come back and join us then. In the meantime, everybody have a good rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.